Good day to you. Dr. Dennis L. Waters here. We're coming to the last few chapters of the book, This Is It. I hope you've enjoyed this particular presentation of this particular book. My prayer is that you have been listening and that you're reading the book. As I said before, I have had various experiences in this art of praying, the art and science of praying. And there are so many things that come to mind when I think about this. I think about this really a great deal. When I was maybe 20 years old or so, I had a dream. I had just come out of the army. I had a dream, and in that dream, I dreamed that I was in and around surrounded by my ancestors. Actually, this particular dream, if a person has seen the movie, was called Black Panther, and they saw in that movie the King T'Challa, played by Chadwick Boseman, who only recently died, passed away in 2020. And there's this time when he has drunk the very special portion, and then he goes into this mystical realm. And in that realm, he meets his ancestors there. That's what I'm trying to describe. I wrote about this in 1974 and 1975 for a class in psychology. And I told the story about this to my father. And another story that I had, a dream that I had, was of me standing up and I was teaching. And whichever way I leaned, that's the way the people who were before me, they were sitting down behind desks, they leaned that way as well. And when I told those stories to my uncle, told them to my father first, and then my father told my uncle, and then my father took me to see my uncle. My father was named Amos. His brother was named Uncle David, as we called him, or Uncle David. And he took me to see him. Uncle David was a minister, and he had me tell the story to Uncle David. And when I did, Uncle David said, "You are called to the ministry." And later in my life, after I had secured a great job working for what was known as the Bell System, which was C&P Telephone Company in Virginia, and later became Bell Atlantic. I had a great job, making at that time very serious money, and I saw an opportunity to go up the ranks, as they call it. But I had this dream and this call, and I wanted to check out and see if this was indeed a call from Spirit, a call from Spirit. And I ended up praying and entering into a covenant with God about going to school. And that's how I ended up going to school to study for the ministry. I mean, a very powerful experience for me. There's so many other times where Spirit has moved in my life, and I'll tell you more about that at a later time. But it's because of those experiences. Even while I was working for Bell Atlantic, there were so many things. I read a book called The Power of Positive Thinking by Dr. Norman Vincent Peale. And I did affirmations. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. I did that affirmation 10 times in the morning in a mirror, looking at a mirror, and 10 times at night, over and over and again. It was just a wonderful thing. It grew my salary. I read books on selling and how to sell and what to do and all of this. And my salary increased. It was wonderful. So when I see what Dr. Murphy has written, my heart actually vibrates at this tune, vibrates at this vibration, this frequency. He labels it metaphysical demonstration. I had not labeled it as such, but the experiences are the same. Chapter 15 is entitled Time and Space. Time and Space. Beginning the reading now. A question frequently propounded is this: why do I say I have been here before? I have seen this place before. Or, is there any place in which you have not been? The world is within you. You do not have to travel to any point in order to describe any place, country, or area in the minutest details. God is omnipresent. He does not travel. You're both God and man. You're both unconditioned and conditioned. The unconditioned or formless awareness is God Almighty. This is the real self of you. You have forgotten who you are, and you believe that you must travel to India in order to see it. You can sit still and see all of India. The Bible text, be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46 and verse 10. Your I amness is God. God is everywhere and in all things. There is nothing outside of yourself. You are the center of all creation, and all revolves around you. As long as we believe in travel, time, and disease, we must experience them. In other words, we must have proof of our conviction. Consider this explanation. John wishes to take a trip to Killarney, Killarney, Killarney. He dreams about the trip and plans for it. He buys a ticket, arranges for passage and passport. He knows that he is going to take the trip. John goes to his father every night. Father is capitalized, capital F-A-T-H-E-R. John goes to his father every night and takes all his moods, feelings, and beliefs with him as gifts. The father is capitalized, always acknowledges whatever his son etches on consciousness. While asleep, John's subjective has taken the psychological trip to Killarney. It saw all the beauties of Killarney, visited his friends, and heard their voices and comments. John awakens and takes the trip physically. Eventually, he motors to Killarney from Cove and does not need to ask questions from anyone. Why? He was there before. He visited it a few weeks ago, psychologically, while asleep on his couch. Now he knows the way. He hears a voice and stops suddenly, saying loudly and excitedly, I heard that voice before. Even that same expression. Why? I know this cottage. I've lived here before. A dozen different expressions pour forth from him. Consciously, he has forgotten, but the subconscious is a storehouse of all memories and experiences, the seat of all knowledge. His experience has nothing to do with previous incarnations. John has been visualizing a wonderful trip, impressed his subconscious, and went to sleep on it. His subjective, knowing all things, accepted the suggestion and dwelt there psychologically. When the conscious mind arrived there, it experienced all the subjective states. I go to prepare a place for you, and if I go, I will come again and take you unto myself, that where I am, there you may be also. When he hears the voice and feels the loving caress of his dear one, it is the objectification of his own desire, and then it registers. I come to make the blind see, and those that see blind. This means that all things exist now, but we refuse to believe it and accept it. For example, Dr. Murphy says, the writer, meaning himself, some years ago met a boy who was considered ignorant and stupid by his comrades. This boy could not read or write, neither did he know the classics. Yet he could stop the flow of arterial blood, or blood from an artery, which flows freely, by closing his eyes and saying, "Stop it." When he opened his eyes, the bleeding had ceased. He believed that his prayer would always be answered, and even though others mocked, he never failed. The Bible verse says, charity or love never faileth. 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8. That is why belief is not necessary on the part of the sick person. Yes, truly the woman can have an issue of blood for 12 years, and by touching the hem of his garment, she shall be made whole. To touch the hem of his garment means to feel the thrill of accomplishment on the inside of the subjective self, to feel that you've been healed when you touch the hem of the garment, to feel it. It is the inner silent knowing. It is the feeling within that it is done. We must always seek the end. Having felt the end, we have already determined the means to the end. How did the so-called ignorant boy mentioned in the previous chapter have this ability? His explanation was as follows. As long ago as he could remember, his father told him that the power to staunch blood was a tradition in the family and was handed down from father to son. The firstborn in the family had the gift, but the other members, such as sisters and other brothers, did not possess this power. The boy grew up in this belief and fully accepted the fact that he could stop the flow of blood. If he saw it, he closed his eyes to it and issued the command, which was always obeyed. He really did not know how or why it should stop. He knew practically nothing about God. The reason the blood stopped flowing was because of his belief. He stated that at home in Colorado, he frequently was called upon to stop cases of hemorrhages. A very peculiar thing about this healing capacity was that he believed that he had to be present and see the blood flow, and so he could not heal anyone out of sight. Not aware of the laws of mind or the working of the conscious and subconscious faculties of man, this shows what could be accomplished with a youth if conditioned properly by someone who knows and understands the laws of life and the truth of being. For example, no amount of words or explanation would convince this Indian boy of the fact that he could stop the flow of blood at the request of a third person, even though he did not see the patient. This was a belief implanted in his subjective mind at an early age, and he accepted it as part of the tradition of his tribe or family. Children, particularly those under 7, are living mostly in the subjective state and very amenable to suggestions, especially from parents whom they love and whom they trust. This boy was unconscious of the fact that it could not be done, just as many of us believe that the technique of stopping the blood flow is only possible through the use of blood coagulants and a tourniquet. It is all a question of how free consciousness has been bound and conditioned by belief, opinion, and custom. So this chapter, Time and Space, talks about whether or not those are necessary and needful, such as the boy who believed that he could stop the flow of blood. He thought he had to be there to see it, to hear the person talk about it. But is that necessary? Because others have done it, not being physically present. And so all of these things, again, to understand. And then when it comes to the person taking the trip, the person visualized the trip, saw himself in various places, in the place that he was going, wrote out his itinerary, When he got there, he said he thought it felt like for him that he had been physically there. The reason is, in both of the instances, is that what is impressed upon the subconscious mind is really believed to be true, is true, and will manifest itself, will call itself forward into physicality. Think about that and practice that. Take care. This is Dr. Dennis L. Waters Sr. Send me an email at drdlwaters, WATERS, SR, at drdlwaters.com. Blessings. Bye-bye.